Okay, so it looks like we're live now. So yeah, today I'm joined by Eric Polini, performance coach, who's been in the game for a pretty long time, and I thought this would be an important conversation to have since I recently started joining the coaching space myself, and I have a lot to learn with regards to that aspect. So if you could introduce yourself, and I saw that you've been doing coaching for so long. You've done like 15,000 plus sessions. Like, tell me a little bit about yourself and like what got you into coaching and like why you've stuck it out for this long.
Yeah, wow. There's definitely some threads of coaching early in my life. I can remember playing Little League Baseball and really enjoying teaching the game to other kids who were new. And I think that's really the first time I can think about a coaching moment. I can actually remember playing third base and teaching uh, a kid by the name of Alex Paralazzi, who was a friend of mine, like just how to get down and field the ground ball. But really there beyond that moment, there was probably a pretty large gap between any memory or anything that I could actually connect to coaching, which then brings me honestly to the surprise of how I ended up getting into it. And so for me, it was really purely selfish reasons. I went to school to study broadcast journalism, and the dream was to do something in sports broadcasting. But when I left college, things kind of quickly unraveled for me. I didn't really have a mentor. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know. I had an immense amount of indecisiveness as to what I should do. Just really got stuck very quickly.
Mm.
And things started to really snowball for me there. And it eventually led to me picking up a job in the restaurant business just to make some money, be productive, not just kind of sit at home. Because I did leave Philadelphia. I went to Temple University. I came back home after about a year of graduating, just kind of reset, come home a little bit easier, got a job. And then, really, a lot of the discomfort I was going through that I couldn't really speak to, I didn't know how to talk about my emotions. I didn't know who to go to help me with what was going on, the lack of confidence. But what did feel good to me was being in the restaurant scene. And that
Mm.
felt good to me because there was a lot of attention from women. There was making money. There was going out, having a good time. There was, quite frankly, a lot of sexual reward in it for me, which is another part of my story. And before you know it, I was so like off my game from broadcasting that finally the opportunity presented itself for me to have a really good interview with ESPN Radio in New York. And I
Mm.
completely bombed the interview. I mean, completely, it was over in the first 2 minutes. I
Okay.
said, I said that I mispronounced the name of the lead of their big host at the time. I think he still is their number one host, Michael Kay. I remember sitting there looking straight at the guy. He asked me something about what I liked about the station, and I said, "Oh, I really love Michael McKay," is what I said, and I could just see him look at me, and I instantly knew this interview was over, and I completely embarrassed myself. And that was kind of one of the rock bottom moments. And it wasn't too long after that um, things probably fell a little bit further. I mean, just to get back to your question about coaching, I ended up getting fired from my bartending job, was on unemployment for a couple months, and then just was at this low, low, low. And I just was like, what the hell happened? I mean, it felt like it happened in the blink of an eye. It
Yeah.
1 second I had graduated college and I felt like a first round draft pick for journalism. I mean, I had national multimedia awards. I had an award named after me by my university. I had one of my university's most prestigious awards called the Temple Diamond Award. Like, I had all these things going for me. And then like a year and a half later, I just felt so far from that person. And so I did the only thing that made sense to me at the time was I just said, when did I feel the best? When did I feel honestly happiest? And it really wasn't even broadcasting. It was like right before broadcasting. It was when I was a track and field athlete and I just felt so confident. I had community. I had people who had my back, people I could lean on. It didn't feel like a lone wolf. And I said, man, I got to get back into really good health. And I did that for a few months and it really turned things around. And I said, you know what? I got to get back on my feet. I got to start working again. I don't want to be collecting an unemployment check. I dropped the unemployment. I got certified as a personal trainer. And what's funny is when I was in high school, I actually came in third place for an entrepreneurship competition. And my business idea was to be a personal trainer.
Mm.
So here I was. But the reasons were completely selfish. I was 100% in coaching because it was a great environment for me to work on myself as an athlete again. And it gave me confidence. I started to get back into competing. Coaching, this is going to sound crazy, but I really didn't get that much joy out of helping people. It was more about me.
Okay.
I felt good when I could teach something. And so when I taught them something and they did something well, I wasn't really happy for them. It was more like, look how good of a coach I am.
Mm.
like let that land for a second. And I coached that way for probably half of my coaching career before I had opportunities to get a better mirror inside myself and in my patterns and things like that. So that's how coaching started.
Yeah, that sounds crazy. Like that's a pretty long journey of like eventually figuring out what you wanted to do. So then I mean, you talked about you eventually were able to find that mirror like halfway through your coaching career. So what made that change like for you to start looking inward and like what did that look like?
Yeah. I mean, it didn't happen all at once for sure. I mean, life, I always feel like the lessons we learn in life are very much, life is very much a spiral. So you learn a lesson and you feel like, oh, I got that one down. And then you realize it goes deeper. And then you're kind of like eventually, whatever lesson you think you've learned, you realize there's about 10 versions of it or infinite versions of it. So, but I would say the first moment I think that really gave me a deeper look into how I behaved in the world. And I got a chance to be reflected in that was so I was coaching at Equinox as a personal trainer, which is a pretty big chain. Most people know it, some people don't, but um, they had a program, a master's, basically let's call it a master training program, but they called it their Tier X program. And this, you had to apply to get into this. So I had kind of gone through the tiers and I was like, okay, what's next? Typical, like, just climb the ladder. And,
Yeah.
someone said, why don't you apply for Tier X? And I kind of had my eye on it and I was like, yeah, I think it's time. Let's do that. And it was probably about 26, 27. So I've been training for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And I didn't get it. I applied and, my ego was, let's just call it was what it was. And I just was like, there's no question I'm going to get this. I've put in the work. I'm very good at what I do. I take care of my clients, albeit kind of probably from a coach centered place, like I told you, but I did get people results. I was very interested in the education, the knowledge, all the rest of it. And I was like, I'm going to get this great. And I got passed over for someone else who was far more inexperienced.
Mm.
And it sent me into a tailspin of just, this isn't fair, this isn't right, what did I do wrong? And what was really great about the TRX coaching process at Equinox is the process very much, they had you go through something called a zero risk assessment. We'll call it like it's something similar to like a Myers-Briggs assessment for people who have done that, stuff that analyzes your personality.
Yeah.
And when that came back, it showed me, it kind of gave me a little bit of reflection of my patterns. And I also had some of those patterns reflected to me by superiors. And really, the way I was handling not getting this promotion was probably one of the deepest reflections into, wow, I have actually a lot to work on emotionally. And
Mm.
that didn't crack me open a ton, but it was like the first moment of, oh man, I need to sit back and actually think about how I'm handling this, because I'm handling it actually a little bit more outward and like putting it on other people because I'm so frustrated. And so it was a really good opportunity to have some humility, have some direction from other people. Um, so that was like the beginning, probably like, again 26, probably 27, 28. Um, but really, I probably would not do the question justice you asked. I, it was probably shortly after that probably the biggest moment of being cracked open came.
Mm.
And that was really when I met my wife. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say when I met my wife, and we were 2 years, 2.5, 3 years into our relationship. So let's call it about 30 years old, 31 years old. Work was going well. I was at the peak of my career, but but I felt like a failure inside my relationship with my then girlfriend. And she at the time was going through some education with somatics. I don't know if you're familiar with kind of somatic coaching or therapy, or people who do parts work, people who do internal family systems work. Um, Basically, just the kind of education that creates a deeper dive into why you are the way you are, just taking it back like all the way to like childhood, right? Kind of that type of stuff. So she was going down that path. And let me tell you, in the short term, that was a little bit of hell for me because she was seeing so much of my patterning and how I was behaving, and she just really wanted the best for me and our relationship. And so it was really her calling me out on a lot of my behavior. She just really noticed that she was the first person to tell me your words are hollow. Like, Eric,
Mm.
your words are empty. Like, I hear what you're saying to me, but it sounds like a mental script you're performing. And I'm paraphrasing what she said, but that's essentially the message she was driving to me.
Wow.
And that, I around like 30, 31, 32, um, I'd already started to open up a little bit more, create a little bit of awareness, like I told you, kind of on that TRX journey, very reflective process. They really cared about how you were emotionally as a coach and how you operate around others. That was a start. But really, it was my girlfriend and now wife at that time that just was like one of the really first people to challenge me in a relationship and just kind of basically say to me, I hear what you're saying, but it's bullshit because your actions say otherwise. And
Yeah.
there was a little bit of denial in trying to fight it, trying to fight back with more words and more manipulation. Like, okay, she said this. I know how to fix this. I know how to get by this. And I would try to do it. And then she still was just kind of like, it was like this power dynamic. She's like, nope, not buying it, still not. And the more she reflected me that way, the more I was like, shit, I'm running out of responses. And I can't, bless you.
Thank
I can't deny what she's saying anymore. Like, there was just finally this moment of like, she's freaking right. What I am saying, like, I'm in this relationship and I'm performing more than I really am present. And then that just unlocked all these memories for me. I started looking back into past relationships with other women I had been with, and just even a period of time where I was single for a while and just went through all these one night stands. I had a period of time in my life, and just so much opened up. in that period of time. There's like an aha moment of like, man, what do I actually really feel? And that journey has continued even to this moment, you and I talking right now.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I can't imagine how I would feel if I heard those words. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And like that, I guess that's a good transition to talk about like what your Substack is about. Because I mean, you call yourself like the liminal father, right? And you do say like fatherhood was one of the main things that changed you. So
Yeah.
can you tell me a little bit about like what does that mean, like being a liminal father, and like how, like what is your approach there?
Yeah. It it took me it took me some time to really commit to that name. Like, am I really going to use that as my handle? Probably for no other reason than, is anybody going to get it? You know, are people just going to look at that and say, I don't know what the hell that means next? And part of me still thinks that's probably true. I look at some other handles from fathers who have similar pages, and instantly I look at their names and I say, yeah, it's probably a more clear communication to the audience. But I said no. I was like, you know what? Damn it. I was like, this name really freaking lands. This name lands with me so hard because the liminal is the space in between.
Mm,
The liminal is the space that I go to. It's like a mental training dojo that
mm,
exists in a place of meditation for me where I'm in the in between, where I pause and I actually take ownership over my subconscious and who it is I'm becoming. It's where I can take ownership over what I call the subtle identity drift, which I know is something you want to ask me more about, just based on other conversation we've had. I won't go into that. We'll go into that model in a second, but going back to the liminal, it's a place where identity gets forged, in my opinion. And as a father, I've never spent more time in that place than at any other point in my life. And so, and I feel like as a father, I, I'm always, that's not going to end. This is now like the new normal. So, liminal is just such a powerful word for me. And it just came to me one day. And I said, that's it. And I don't care if it connects with people or not. You know, sometimes we can be very analytical about how we show up online and making sure, oh, you got to, clear communication. You read all this stuff on Substack about this is how you should position yourself. And I was like, this one's coming from the heart. My body is telling me that this is the name, and that's it. And we're not going to go past that because I've spent way too much of my life being analytical. And I was like, this one feels like it's actually coming from here. And that's what I'm trying to bring more of into my life. So let me take the chance on that and actually listen to that feeling coming from my body, because that's what I've been trying to get to the last 5 or 6 years. So like this is a chance to practice that. So I'm going with it. So that's where that name comes from.
yeah, I love that. And yeah, that's something. I think that's something that I feel like is a common theme among a lot of people that came to Substack in the first place. Like a lot of us are in that like messy, like in between phase, and like we're just trying to figure things out. You know, like
Yeah.
we haven't gotten to the other side yet, and we're just trying to feel like what are
There
like
is no other side.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
like you're always in the liminal, man. Get used to it.
yeah, 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 definitely. So yeah, like yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And like so yeah, you did talk a little bit about like the subtle identity drift. So like what is that concept exactly?
Yeah. So the last 6 months has been, or really, yeah, last 6 months, last 6, 7 months has been a whirlwind for me. And just me, if anybody has ever had just a moment in their life where they really have gone back and deconstructed a piece of their history in their life, or maybe their whole life, there's so much gold there to learn from. And I say that because that's where the subtle identity drift came from. Is I just had this moment where I wasn't working as much. I intentionally dropped a lot of my clients, making this career pivot. I had just come back from this amazing somatic breath work experience, which I think you want to ask me about more. We'll save that. So, just to give you a sense of kind of the place I was in mentally. So, I use this time period to really go back and deconstruct not just a piece of my life, but I freaking broke down the whole thing. I really went from early in my life all the way up to present day, and I just started looking at these cycles in my life of, just kind of really what ended up being like every 5 to 7 years. But I just started looking at, what were the major events in my life that I felt like affected me. And as I did that, I started to break down why they affected me, what happened, where was kind of like the bottom of these moments, like the rock bottom of these periods, and how did I get out of the rock bottom? What did I learn? How did I come back differently? I just started kind of doing this throughout my life. And as I did that, I just started to notice this pattern, like what is ultimately like causing me to go through these cycles, or really anybody. And a lot of times we like to think of stuff as, it's one big moment that changes our life. And I don't want to say that's untrue, but I believe in duality. And I think often the opposite is true as well. And so what I started to realize is, for me at least, what was more true than that statement was that my life changed really by what I call, ever hear the saying like death by 1,000 cuts?
I actually have not. What did that mean?
Yeah. So it just basically means kind of what I'm saying, which is, we don't fall or hit rock bottom because of one moment, but it's really, it's 1,000 tiny little moments, little things that happen to us. Again, my belief over time that shift us away from the identity that we would like to hold on to. And it shifts us into kind of something else. And we get misaligned. We start to lose kind of congruency with ourselves. We start making exceptions. Maybe these are patterns, like we start people pleasing. We're not standing up for ourselves. We're not setting boundaries. Maybe we don't know how to speak up for ourselves because of something that happened in our life. And just these little moments over time, they shift us. And so I started to break this down into a formula of, we experience some type of pressure in our life, right? So all of us have been in a moment where we're feeling pressure. Something feels uneasy, maybe. It's pressure to perform, pressure to succeed. And sometimes that pressure is like overwhelming. It actually hinders our ability to be who we want to be. Sometimes it does the opposite. Sometimes we really perform well under pressure. And I said, well, what makes that true? So I was like, I have kind of step one of the subtle identity drift. It's pressure. We have to understand pressure. It's not bad or good, but pressure is coming into contact with us. And more specifically, it's coming into contact with a belief that we hold about ourselves, as well as a belief we hold about the world.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like it's like the way, I guess it's like the relationship you have with pressure, right? Like, because it could be either good or bad, just like you said, right?
Yeah. So in any given moment, and I'll use like a really simple moment, I'll use something that's really just top of mind for me, just so I make sure I give a good example. But with a kid I was coaching, so I coach, part of what I do is I work with youth junior golfers, and I do mental performance coaching. And a lot of the kids I work with, they're really talented. They have the physical skills. They're always working on the physical skills. So when they don't perform well, it's likely not because there's an issue with their swing. Okay. They might perform a poor swing that leads to a bad result, and then they actually think like, oh, that's a technical issue. I have to go work on that in practice. Likely they're in a situation where the pressure is high, and that changes their swing mechanics. And so an example of this in a coaching session is I was talking to a youth golfer, and he was running into the same pattern of in the first 9 holes, he would shoot, he would have like double bogey, like triple bogey somewhere within the first 9 holes. So in golf, if you're playing a hole and the goal is to shoot par, and so on a hole, if it's a par 4, your goal is I got to try to get it in the hole in 4 shots. If you do that, you score a par. If you do it in 3 shots, that's a birdie. If you do it in 1 shot over par, that's a bogey. 2 shots over par, double bogey, just to give some context if people don't know golf. So he was really struggling. And then when he would get to the back 9 holes, he would finally start to perform well. But he would start to perform well because he felt like he was so out of the competition at that point that there was no pressure. So I said, well, what's going on in the front 9 holes for you? Like, what's the belief that you have? And at first his answers were very superficial, but then just slowed him down. I said, hold on. Let's go back to, hole number 4 where you had that triple bogey, right? Or where you had that first bad shot that ended up leading to the triple bogey, right? Can you just go back to that moment? And he said, okay. I said, close your eyes if it feels okay with you. So it's like 16-year-old kid. He closed his eyes. And I said, can you see yourself on the course? He's like, yep. I was like, great. Just take a breath. Just breathe. Walk me through it slowly. So he's walking me through it. He's giving me information. And finally, I'm pausing him every time I hear something that's kind of like, wait, hold on. Let's pause with that. And finally, I just say, tell me what you're really feeling here. And I gave him a sentence stem. I said, I'm gonna give you a sentence stem. If it feels good, complete the sentence. If it doesn't, don't. And I just said, the fear I don't want to admit to myself right now is. And so he said, the fear I don't want to admit to myself is that after I shoot 1 bad shot, I'm just going to keep shooting bad shots. Right? So that's the underlying belief he has. So in those moments, that pressure is contacting that belief. And now, like in that moment, when things are happening quickly, he's got to decide to himself subconsciously, because he's not even really consciously aware of it, is that actually true about myself? Right? And in his case, he was believing that was true. And it was putting all this pressure on him to fight that, to resist it, instead of just being with it and saying, wow, this is actually what I believe to be true.
Okay, so then the question I have is so is should the goal be to eliminate the pressure, or is it still possible to coexist with the pressure? That would be my question for you.
Yeah, in my belief, I think the goal is never to eliminate the pressure. The goal is to realize that the pressure is just feedback.
Okay.
Pressure is just something internally inside you that is contacting. It's actually creating a learning moment for you to actually go inside. What is this pressure coming into contact with? Because likely you're feeling pressure when it comes into contact with something that's creating conflict for you.
Okay.
And the goal is to have him not be in conflict with pressure, to have it move through his system and actually have him respond with trust. To actually have that moment more excite him than make him feel like he's actually going into defense mode. Because for him, that moment was so heavy that his nervous system was now in high alert. So if he's in high alert and he's playing from a place of survival, that's going to make his body more rigid. It's going to affect his ability to focus. It's also going to throw his swing out of rhythm. And this is why I say for a lot of these golfers, and you could apply this to other examples in life, it's not really a technical issue. This is a trust issue, a belief issue, a pattern he has about himself, something he has seen play out. So now he believes that that's the more likely outcome. And after 3 weeks, so he went from shooting They'll have tournaments on the weekends that'll be 2 days. And so he went from shooting like 85, 83, which I mean for you and I would be a great score, but he's used to shooting. He wants to be below 80, and
Yeah.
improving. And in golf, if you improve your score by one stroke, like that's a big deal for golfers. Like that's not a small thing. So he went from that after 3 weeks of us working together. This past weekend, he's not playing this weekend, but this past weekend, he shot 77, 75.
Wow. Yeah, pretty big change. Yeah.
So we're always creating meaning from things that happen in our life. We're never not creating meaning. Your subconscious is always creating a meaning out of something, and that's part of the subtle identity drift model. It's pressure, it's belief. It's then, do you react from a place of fragmentation or trust? Fragmented meaning not trust. You're kind of scattered. Sometimes you even do, like in his case, he would actually try to execute shots he wasn't even capable of executing because he was in such pressure to try to like save the error he made from the previous shot that he would try to actually go above his limitations. So one of his mantras is actually accept limitation to break limitation. It's like something he kind of repeats to himself is like to not let the pressure, because that's also like, it's like, okay, pressure, belief, but now what was the actual action? We want to look at like, what did you do? And was the action in alignment with your identity, who you are, and what your values are? And you also have to know those things to know if that's true. So that's part of the work we do. We establish values for him and stuff like that. And then the outcome. The outcome happens. Outcome's not good or bad, but we're all making meaning out of outcomes. So with these athletes or with anybody, it's like, let's actually think about the meaning you just created from this. And then if you can take if you can take it as just information to help you get better versus you use that outcome and you start to formulate a belief, a new belief about yourself that I'm a failure and I can't do this. Well, now when you come back in contact with that same situation, you're more and more likely to start reinforcing that belief from the previous outcome. And
Okay.
this cycle just keeps happening whether we want it to in life or not. And so that's why I call it subtle, because we often don't think about it. It's happening all the time, and all these tiny moments are reinforcing who we are. And so again, we tend to think of things as like really big moments, and there certainly are moments that are bigger than others. But to me, it's really more death by 1,000 cuts, or success by 1,000 cuts, or however you want to frame that.
Yeah. I mean, I resonate a lot with that. I mean, when I look back to like when I broke down like last year, like it was definitely one of those 10,000 cut scenario. Or yeah, like it happened over the course of like 2 years of like just like little things happening over and over, and I just didn't want to learn my lesson until
Sure. Yeah.
eventually it ended up happening. But yeah, that being said, I do want to talk about like a big event that happened in your life. You had like a front squat injury when you were in the gym, and you said like that moment changed a lot of things for you. Can you walk me through what happened there?
Yeah. This is probably one maybe I should have answered with your previous question. Anybody else out there ever get overwhelmed by your life and trying to trying to put it together? Yeah. So I'm just going back into the feeling of that place I was in at that time. Um, yeah, wow. Wow, that guy, that version of me had so much that he was trying to prove to the world.
Mm,
He was constantly trying to atone for his past, always trying to atone for his past. Very rarely was ever in the present moment. And there was a lot of things about my life athletically that didn't go the way I wanted. I wasn't okay with my story from high school. And
Sure.
a lot of that had to do with my parents getting divorced when I was 7, 8 years old. Prior to that, very athletic, natural athlete, excelled in a lot of things I did. And most importantly, I loved sport. Constantly wanted to be doing sport. But when I lost that structure in the home, a lot of things went south. A lot of coping mechanisms happened. My mom did the best she could. She was one parent. Um, my father ended up working even more than when he was working when he was in the house, because now they're trying to pay for the bills through divorce. So I mention all this because all this has to do with the front squat injury that you asked me about. And I just developed such extreme coping patterns that from like age 8 to 14, I really like, I was doing sports, but my athletic ability and confidence just fell off a cliff. And sports actually really became my anxiety. They became my pain. I was like showing up because I had to. I had no confidence in my ability. I didn't think anybody else had any confidence in me. I had gained weight. I had poor, really bad eye vision, astigmatism for a couple of years that went undiagnosed, which made it impossible to play baseball, which nobody knew. But there's so much that happened in that period of time. And I kind of recovered. I bounced back a little bit in high school, bounced back even further in college, but it wasn't enough. Like, it was still a cup that like this inner athlete identity in me. Like I needed to get to some level to validate myself. And so
Yeah.
what that caused was a pattern of pushing past, like pushing my body past its limits as the default, even as a trainer. And I wouldn't do this with my clients. It was very much like, do as I say, not as I do. And but with myself, like, there was only one workout mode. Only one workout mode. It was take some pre-workout and work out for 90 minutes, 2 hours like a madman. And it got me quick results because I was young enough to recover. But eventually, as I got to my mid 20s, the breakdown started to happen mechanically. And I was under that bar at 300 pounds, and my back just lit up. And thank goodness it was a front squat and not a back squat, because I could
Mm.
drop the bar in front of me and I just went down. It was my body finally saying, you need to effing stop. Like, you're breaking me, and you need to stop. But still, at that time, I didn't understand it from the emotional perspective I'm telling you now. I just was in the
Yeah.
perspective of what happened. I need to fix it. I got back up. I foam rolled for 10 minutes and tried to do it again. And the same thing happened. And that's a pattern that, you know, I've done that my whole life. I was in a competition for javelin and I tore the UCL ligament in my elbow. And after I heard the pop, I went to go take a second throw at my arm. Like, this is just what I did. This was normal. It's like, no, I'm fine. And then took a second throw, fell down to my knees. Okay, I'll finish the meet with my left arm.
Yeah.
like it was never, I couldn't take no for an answer because I was trying to satisfy something that was impossible to satisfy. So that injury was like the first, like, my body broke. I couldn't do obstacle course racing. It really took away all of these outlets that I had been using to shape my identity were now gone, because I couldn't even run down the road more than 100 meters without my right hamstring locking up on me. Um, and it forced me to learn a lot of things about myself physically and mechanically, which gave me a lot of skills to help other people. So there was a gift that came out of it, but I still wasn't realizing the emotional part of what made it happen. And so from that moment, I continued to have catastrophic injuries and setbacks for still another 5 or 6 years before finally there was more connection with body and mind.
Okay. So you would say the fact that it forced you to stop and slow down was like what helped you realize that?
Yeah, being my body forcing me to basically break from all these things that I was using to create my identity, and things I was getting pleasure from competing without being able to do any of that. Yeah, it was a depressing time. And but there was still that, like, I'm going to figure this out. And so I said, okay, what education do I need to fix myself? And
Okay.
so that did have really amazing consequences for my career because I ended up seeking out education at very high levels to understand biomechanics, which I still use to this day with my golfers and clients that, you know, allow me to coach at a high level. So there was something good that came out of it. But what I didn't realize at the time is that the reason why I ended up in that place was less to do with poor mechanics and working out and had way more to do with the emotional patterning that just forced my body to compete at extreme levels all the time. Um, Almost like I was punishing myself. I couldn't work out hard enough. It wasn't no success I achieved was like ever good. I had to keep going. And the only way I knew how to do that, the only really tool in my toolbox was just to work harder.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, and I could see how that would be tough to handle and navigate once you get to the trying to get to the other side of that. So yeah, I mean, like you said, you talked a lot about like you did a lot of education to figure this stuff out, and like you've been in the space for a while, 15,000 coaching sessions. I mean, you go through nervous system stuff like Vivin exercises, all of these things. But you also said that like even though you were able to help a lot of people, it was like all those things weren't able to help yourself, and like it felt like you had the answers for other people, but you didn't have the answers for yourself. So like, can you walk me through like how that felt and like what was that space like?
Yeah. I mean, as I kept basically repeating the same emotional pattern, right? So I eventually did figure things out from that injury, figured out the asymmetries in the body, figured out I had scoliosis. There's a ton of things. I mean, my right leg was a full pound heavier than my left because of the training imbalance. So I did figure out some things. I got back, started competing again eventually after like a year and a half. But the same emotional patterns took over. Is I would go too fast too soon, and I broke down again. I tore the elbow, and then said, "Okay, I'm not going to throw javelin anymore. Um, I'm going to go do the next thing. I'm going to really dedicate myself to golf, and I'm going to really dedicate myself to softball in a men's league, and then push myself to extremes in that. Dove head first for a ball. My neck went into the ground like this. My feet came up and over like a scorpion. Compressed C7. Luckily, I wasn't paralyzed, but it left me in chronic pain for about 3 or 4 years. It was like impossible for me to even be present with people as they were talking to me. I was constantly fidgeting and trying to get out of pain, but still helping others get out of their pain. And so, I mean, it's amazing. I'm saying all this because when I think about it, it really took so long for me to finally see the emotional pattern behind it all. Um, I want to say it was probably somewhere around 34, 35 years old where I really started to actually visualize like where I really started to let go of the identity of the past, like the athlete, the guy who needed to be the strongest one in the gym, pound for pound, the guy who had a little bit of a Napoleon complex at 5'6", 175 pounds. I was like, I really need to like thank this guy and really let him go because if I don't, like, I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep going because I was starting to really lose the ability to help the people I was with. I no longer could show up to my sessions and go into performance mode coach Eric, who got who got a good high and a good reward from being as knowledgeable as he was to help who he was helping. That was no longer lifting me up because my personal life and how I was feeling was falling apart so much. And um, so it really just took This is why I think, and this is why I say a lot of moments for people change in rock bottom. A lot of change happens when the pain on one side just becomes greater than the opposite. Like, I think as humans, we'd like to think that we make change with amazing foresight and wisdom. And you see a lot of people on Substack put out their wisdom that way to help others. Like, hey, I learned it the hard way. Don't do what I did. And sometimes I think that's silly because all of us learn through experience. It's very difficult to take someone else's wisdom, even with their story, and say, okay, now I won't do that. I won't make the mistakes that I like. It's just how we learn.
Yeah,
So it just really took my personal life falling apart, um, and not just being able to hold it together because the pain, the chronic pain in my neck, and just like losing yourself. And for me to say, oh man, I need some, I don't know what it is, but something has to change here.
yeah, yeah. That's powerful. Yeah, and I can tell. I can tell that that was a very hard and long journey for you. And yeah, I would agree with you that like experience is definitely life's best teacher because like nothing else can really replace like the way you feel during those types of moments. But yeah, like you also told me that there was like a specific experience that really helped you out when you went over to Austin, Texas, in order
Yeah.
to do, like somatic exercise, and you do a lot of like breath work like with your clients, but like what made this specific experience a little bit different than like the usual breath work that you already do?
Yeah, a lot of the breath work I was doing. So in November 2025. So this is now, I've been a father for a year at that point. Um, and fatherhood was really one of those things that broke everything down personally in my life further. It's like that moment of like, this is the best time ever. I love being a dad. I love being a husband who's also a father. Um, but it also was adding pressure to my life in some other ways that was kind of eventually started to take the ship kind of down again. And so I went to this breath work in Austin, Texas, and I I chose to do this breath work because I was at a point where I said, okay, nothing's working for me. All the tools as a performance coach, all the recovery methods, massage, some basic breathing, um, doing parts work, some of the shadow work I'd done in the past with other coaches and therapists. I'd done that, like, and I was like, none of this is what I need. I could just kind of feel it. I'm like, I need something else to get out of the hole I'm in, because I was getting to the point where I was like hitting burnout on a weekly basis.
Mm,
Like once a week, I just would like shut down. My body would just like numb out. I would have trouble speaking to my wife about it. And this is a normal response that the that specifically men will go through when the emotional overload of their life is too much. It's actually a survival strategy to like actually shut down, numb out, and not feel it. So that was just happening, like, and I was aware of that, and I was like, this is happening way too much. And I said, and so I just sat with it. I was like, okay, I need to sit with this. I was like, I'm trying to figure it out up here, and the more I'm figuring it out up here, I'm just sinking deeper. And I'm just like, it's like being in a room where there's no lights. It's like floating in a gravity tank with no lights, and you're just floating, and you're like, I have no idea which way is north, forward, back. Like that's what it's like, kind of being in that place, trying to figure it out here. And I was like, I just need to stop trying to get to the solution, and I just actually need to sit with this. And when I did that, the thing that came up for me, and I said, Eric, like, this has nothing to do with willpower. This has nothing to do with discipline. You have shown yourself your whole life that you can push, you can be disciplined. Like, you didn't all of a sudden just lose these skills. I was like, this has got to be something else. And
yeah,
so when I sat with it, the thing that came up, it just like literally flashed in front of my eyes. And the thing that came up for me is I said, "Oh my God, I have no capacity." Like that's the issue. I have no capacity. This isn't about recharging. This isn't something that I took a month off of work because I thought like I just needed a recharge.
Mm.
It didn't solve anything. I took a month off of work. I'm like, I have money saved. I've done well. I've been lucky. You know what? I'm taking a whole freaking month off. I'm going to be with my family. I had trouble even being present with my family because I was so burnt
Wow.
out. And finally, like, that's like when it hit me and I sat with it and I was like, okay, it's got to be something else. Capacity. I was like, but how do I get more capacity? And then this like analogy came up in my, like, this is the way my brain works to help me make sense of things. Then I just said, like, I was like, oh my God, this is exactly like when your iPhone starts losing its capacity to take a full charge.
Mm.
Like that's like actually popped up to me. I was like, this is the problem. I was like, this is the problem. Even when I recharge, I'm recharging a battery that's like hitting 30%.
Uh,
So by the time I hit Wednesday, I'm burning out. I can't even make it through the week. But I can't go buy a new iPhone. I can't go buy a new body. I have to figure out a way to like restore my actual internal battery. So it's a little bit of a long explanation, but that's really what going to Austin and doing the somatic breath work was for. The actual experience was a 4-day workshop, a practitioner workshop, where, um, you know, they teach you about somatics and they teach you about alignment, attunement, emotional range, all these other things. But basically, the core of it is simply 50 minutes of dedicated breathing in through your mouth and out through your mouth for half of it, and then in through your nose and out through your mouth for the other half, being held and guided by somebody next to you, the practitioner, who's just there to really witness you and demonstrate true empathy,
okay.
right? Because real empathy, like I'll actually ask you this question: what do you think empathy is?
Um, well, I mean, I think there's different types of empathy. I mean, you could have like the intellectual understanding of what somebody is going through. That's like the surface level
Yep,
empathy.
that's
But
the
then,
mental script,
yeah,
right?
but you could also have like the feeling version of empathy, like you
Yeah.
literally feel what the person is feeling.
You're how old are you again?
It's 25.
Yeah, you're light years ahead of where I was and where most people are. So, like, amazing. And that's one of the reasons why I follow you because I see that in you. And that's 100% right. And I went so much of my life having a complete lack of empathy,
Mm,
which is why when I coached, it was really about me, right? Bringing it back to that example earlier. So that's one of the most powerful things a practitioner does is they feel what you're feeling and they just witness you, give you permission to feel it even more than what you would probably allow yourself to feel it
mm,
without taking it on. That's the hard part, is to
okay.
feel it without drowning in what that person's feeling, but just to mirror them so that they feel seen. It's one of the simplest, most powerful things I've ever experienced, and it allowed me to release anger, sadness, laughter, resentment, grief. I'm I went through the gambit of emotions while going through this breath work. One of the reasons why the breath work brings that up, not only because you have someone there kind of mirroring what you're feeling, but the breath work itself is designed to heighten your sympathetic nervous system. So it's actually creating pressure in your system for you to feel whatever it is you need to feel, maybe something that hasn't, that you've been suppressing. It helps you kind of connect back with some of these emotions. And everyone's experience is different. So I'm giving you my experience, but yeah, when I did that, everything made instant sense. Like so many things made sense to me. It's hard to put it into words now. It's easier to put into words in some of the articles and essays I've written, but in real time, to put it into words, the one thing I'll tell you is that the capacity part that I mentioned earlier, The minute I finished my first 50-minute breath work, and I did 3 of them in a 4-day stretch, like capacity went from 20% like to what felt like 100. It wasn't 100 because after more breath works, I realized, oh wait, there's more to go. But it felt like that. It was a sense of like immediate calm. Like
Wow.
just, I never felt more stoic. I would love to call myself a stoic. I don't think I'm there. I don't think I'm there. I don't think I'm there yet. I have moments. That was a moment where I'm like, oh, this is stoicism, like where I'm at right now. This like this understanding of acceptance of being exactly where I am in this moment. Like that's what it gave me. No other breath work gave that to me.
Okay, so like a follow-up question I have is like what do you think made that one specifically different? Like is it because you went that deep, like the 50-minute session, or
Yeah.
was it because like there was somebody there that was able to guide you with like the true empathy that you're talking about? What do you think it was?
Yeah, I'll give you the shortest answer I've given you today, which will average out all the way too long answers I've given you today. Um, and that is, and the answer is all the above,
Okay.
all of it. Yeah, there's a lot of variables to it. They all matter.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. But yeah, yeah, we've had a few people join here today, and another question I had for you is like, if someone is like listening to this and maybe they recognize themselves in your story, like the drift, the performing, like a lot of the stuff they're doing isn't working. Like, what's like one thing you tell them to do, like, or help them understand?
Wow. Hmm. I'm going to demonstrate this answer
Okay,
because because I think really everything I've shared today points back to this,
okay,
and I'm just going to demonstrate it, and hopefully it clicks. Okay.
okay. Do you want me to do this with you?
You can absolutely do it with me. So can everyone else.
Okay,
Since you're doing it with me, I'll narrate a little bit, and for anyone else who's doing it, I'm just feeling how much my body has me. I'm feeling how much my body has been there for me throughout all the punishment that I have put it through, that it still wakes up every day for me so that I can be here now for my wife, for my daughter. And the only way that I can actually feel that and not mental script it is to actually just feel it. To feel my pelvis pushing up out of the chair and feeling that length that comes through my spine and actually sensing the amount of confidence and strength that just comes from that, and to just connect with my heart and try to breathe into the back of my heart. And for me right now, I can feel I feel the tears that are actually behind my eyes that have the appreciation for just being here right now and the 7 or 8 people who joined and appreciation for you to hold this space for me to tell my story and to be in that identity of that I am that coach who is client centered. I'm that coach who is sharing from the place of this is not just for me. This is hopefully for somebody else. Because the coaching I do now happens from a somatic place. It's not a performance place. So everything I shared with you was 100% what I had felt just in 3 to 4 breaths, just in the little bit of silence that I took. And so much we try to put things into words, but sometimes it's just not words. It's just, can I be with myself right now? What's coming up for you as you breathe, and you of course can, if there's a need to protect what you're feeling and not share it, I totally encourage you to do that. If it feels good to share it, I encourage you to do that.
Um, yeah, I mean, I would say like it feels good because it feels like I am partially present in the moment, but I definitely feel like there is like a little bit of escapism right there. Like I'm trying to
Mm.
escape my own thoughts. Like, um, yeah, I do think that I still have a little bit of ways to go to feel
Let
safe
me
and
let me
satisfied.
let me pause you right there. When you say you feel that desire to escape your own thoughts, say that again and then pause and let yourself be affected by it. Does that make sense?
Okay,
Does that make sense?
say it again and then let myself.
Yeah.
Uh,
Let yourself be affected by it. Don't follow up with anything else. Just say what you said, which is, I feel myself in my thoughts and trying to escape them. And
yeah,
if my paraphrasing or rephrasing doesn't feel correct, use your own words, but say it, pause, and then just actually sit and allow yourself to be affected.
okay, yeah. I feel like I'm trying to escape my thoughts right now.
And just take a deep breath. I'll take one with you. And you can keep your eyes closed for this. If you want to keep them open, whatever feels good for you. But just let yourself be affected. And then tell us when you're ready. And if you feel safe enough, tell us what your experience is.
Yeah, I mean, I can already feel like some of the tension releasing. Um, yeah, it feels a little bit better now.
Was there any? I'll give you a sentence stem, and if it feels good to finish it, you can finish it. And if it doesn't, you can throw it away. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
The belief I have about escaping my thoughts is
The belief that I have about escaping my thoughts is uh, it's hard to coexist with them, and it's hard to feel safe within those thoughts.
mm, okay. Yeah, just let yourself be affected by what you just said, especially that last part. Maybe take another breath just to slow things down and not feeling safe means fill in the blank if it feels good.
Not feeling safe feels familiar to me because it's happened for the majority of my life.
Hmm. Yeah. Take a breath with that. I just want you to try to breathe into the back of your heart. Eyes closed if it feels safe. If it feels okay with you and you want to share your experience internally with what's coming up.
Yeah, I I already feel a bit more safer, and it does. I feel a bit more regulated right now. But I feel
Yeah.
like I'm finally taking the time to like slow down a little bit. I've been in high gear a lot, especially recently.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a connection there for you about being in a higher gear and safety?
Yeah, I mean,
Or I guess let me phrase it in a more open ended question for you. What about being in high gear and feeling safe? What about that is affecting your reality?
um, I mean, I would say like I feel the need to always be in high gear, or else like if I stop, like I'm not like living out my own identity anymore. Almost like uh, because I mean, especially as a man, it feels like you have to continuously keep up with that, or else you'll be seen differently,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I guess that's where it really comes from for me, and like not letting myself rest. Maybe not because I don't think I deserve it. I do think I deserve it, but maybe just because it's hard to keep up with everything that I'm doing right now.
I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and just continue to breathe into the heart. The identity I believe a man should have is
You want me to give the answer that I think it should be, or the answer that I have right now?
doesn't matter, whichever one you feel.
Yeah,
I mean, right there is the conflict, is it not?
exactly.
Right? Yeah. So it's probably a good idea for you to say both.
Yeah. So what I'm currently doing right now is I believe that the identity of a man is to like take responsibility for their own life, um, carry through with what they say they're gonna do, and be there for their people.
Mhm.
That's that's what I believe. But the problem with that is that you don't necessarily give yourself enough time to rest. You don't necessarily allow yourself to be present in the moment because you're so focused on the next thing. So I mean, what I want to build towards would be a man that allows myself to rest, that you know puts like gives myself time to be present without having it override all my other responsibilities.
Mm. The one thing I need to feel more of to create that is
Hmm. Yeah, the one thing I need to feel more of.
breathe into your body. Breathe into your body, right? You notice when you start looking up, usually means you're going into your head. There's no rush to answer. We're all here with you.
I think it would be to let let go of trying to control.
I believe. I believe.
I believe. I
Go ahead.
believe. I believe I would need to feel the need to let go of like trying to control everything.
Mm.
Um, because and have more trust in myself to carry through with my responsibilities instead of trying to manage everything in real time and live in the future instead of live in the present moment.
And how does that change your definition or belief of what it means to be a man now? Now that you've said that,
Um, I think it goes back to performance. Like, stop trying to perform in order to like be that person, and instead just trust yourself to be that person instead.
yeah, there's going back to the subtle identity drift. Trust, pressure, belief, trust. So, um, yeah, so that's it right there. Our actions and behavior, they come a lot from what it is we believe. And sometimes it's not what we believe on the surface, but it's actually what's deeper underneath, right? How much did you feel your answers changed, felt better, fill in the blank, but we'll just let me rephrase the question. How did you feel like your answers changed when you were going more to the body versus when you were more in your head?
It felt like I was giving myself the space to like listen to myself instead of like feeling the need to respond right away and like that. I mean, that also comes from the pressure too. Like, I feel a need to respond right away to make myself look competent and
Mm,
all of these things. Um,
there's a
so
belief right there you should write down.
yeah, yeah,
So, right? I mean, you start going down this train, it unravels. That's great.
yeah.
You're doing awesome. That's great. It's very impressive.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah. It was an interesting experience. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure. My pleasure. It's truly. But so that was going back to the original question that led us here was simply, what is it that I would want anyone to take away? And it's, I guess, maybe in words I can actually answer now that we've demonstrated is the body has the answers. Or maybe we'll just say brain heart coherence, brain body coherence. I don't know what language you want to use, but
Yeah.
silence, slow down. You said it really well. You actually took time to listen to yourself, right? We spent more time consuming so much information than we do actually listening to ourselves. Um,
Yeah.
and then we wonder why it is we struggle to have feeling, right? So much of behavior. One of the next articles that I want to write is just a concept of, how much, and we'll use media as the example, but it's not the only one. But how much does media end up absorbing so much of what's happening around the world outside of your immediate spheres of influence actually eventually lead to you numbing out and having a lack of empathy and feeling? Because at some point, when you're constantly consuming what's going on around the world, and news tends to be negative, and coming from the broadcast journalism background, I know that firsthand. That's what gets people's attention. Not that it's always that way, but it is predominantly that way. Um, as a human, you when you see this stuff, you want to feel. You do want to feel, and you probably did at one point, but then eventually you consume so much information that you can't possibly influence these events. Not all of them. And it becomes, and all this information is entering your nervous system, but you can't impact it. You don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
It just bogs you down. And eventually you stop feeling the empathy of what's coming through the news. And you start acting from empathy, but really more from a mental script, because that's more energy efficient. Because you got to go still do the other things you got to do that you need to get done that day, because you can't impact what's going on, in Israel or Russia, whatever around, even somewhere locally. You there's nothing you can do today to likely impact it.
Yeah.
So you start more of coming at it from more of an efficient perspective of practicing what you said very well, what I think is true, mental empathy, and you stop feeling it. But now you're actually in part training yourself to not feel. I think that creeps into other parts of our lives, personally.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's one of the reasons why, as a society, we do struggle to be more field based. A, things are moving quickly, but B, we're conditioning ourselves to actually respond more from mental scripts than we are actually from a felt emotion. And I understand that sometimes that may be necessary and needed. I'm not saying that that is necessarily a bad thing. It's a strategy. It's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a question of, is it a strategy we're doing too much?
Yeah. So do you suggest that like you carve out intentional time every day to go more into the body instead of staying in the brain?
Yes, but I'm also a fan of trying to figure out for people, how do you do that in a way that is the easiest lift for you. So for me, what became easy was practicing it before my workouts. I just created a non-negotiable. I say non-negotiable, and really it's like a non-negotiable 80% of the time, 80-20 rule. But non-negotiable that I take 5 minutes, which oftentimes leads to at least 10 to 15 of just sitting and closing my eyes. I'll go to the gym. I'll get there at 6 a.m., 5:45. I sit down on some yoga blocks in a corner, close my eyes. I don't care if it's like a Saturday and I hit the gym at 10 and it's busy. I close my eyes and I just work on listening to myself. That's it. I make it simple. It doesn't have to be a big thing. And I also tell myself if I can do at least 3 to 5, and then this way I'm not like counting the minutes. Like, let me just get there. And then usually when I get there, it's easy to keep going because it feels good. So yes, the answer to your question is yes. And I just invite people also to be gentle with themselves and, okay, let's like actually audit your life a little bit, and where can this actually fit in really well, so it doesn't feel like more pressure and like, oh my gosh, this is now something I have to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I've also been stuck in that area where like I try to force like a new routine on
Oh, it's the
myself.
worst.
But yeah, that doesn't work either. So yeah, I get what you mean. You definitely have to integrate it in a smarter way than just
Yeah.
putting it in there.
To me, that's the whole, like, Atomic Habits approach, or some of those other books. I'm blanking on the names now.
Yeah, yeah,
do something for 60 days and then it becomes ingrained. And I'm not I'm not saying I'm not a fan of those and it's not true, but it does feel like a little bit more top down approach to changing your life. And if the foundation of what you've done in your life feels really good, you're like really solid in who you are, then I think that works. But I think for some people, when that doesn't work, that top down approach, it's because they actually need to go a little deeper or figure out a way to make it easier.
yeah, definitely. But yeah, like yeah, we're approaching like the 1.5 hour mark. So like I
Time
have
flies.
yeah, I have like one final question for you.
Sure.
And you mentioned it here during the live, but you say like you're still writing about this stuff while you're still inside the mess. You're not above it yet. So like why is that important for you to say?
It's a reminder to myself um, to stay in alignment with where I'm at. I think something I've recognized about myself at different times during my coaching, um, and I've recognized it in others, is you really want to speak from a place of embodiment. Like, where are you actually in your process? I never
Yeah.
want to come off like I'm speaking about something and I've mastered it. I think and that was a pattern of mine for sure, where I can learn something today and I can talk about it tomorrow and make you believe like I've done it for 10 years. Because I'll speak confidently, I absorb it intellectually quickly, and that can be good for certain things for sure. But yeah, so it's more for me, and it's also just to, I think, let the reader understand that, hey, this whole thing's a practice. Life is a practice, and it's messy, and uh, and I'm not here to preach. I'm not here to pontificate. Um, I'm more than ever humbled by my experience and my path, and that's it. So yeah, that's where it comes from. Do you like it? Does it when you read it, were you like, ooh, that's good?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think we have too many people that, act like gurus and like
Yeah,
they're like, oh, like we figured out the secrets to life and blah blah blah.
yeah,
So yeah, I appreciate the fact that you're staying real regarding that stuff. Because yeah, I don't think anybody has it completely figured out. Like they're most likely trying to sell you something if they do say that. Um,
yeah.
so
I mean, I agree with that, and yeah, I think all of us have something in our life that we do really have figured out, right? We have an expertise in something for sure. We have skills, and so I'm not saying that I'm not saying that people shouldn't come from a place of being very confident and like, hey, I've mastered this, and like now I'm going to teach you. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just being honest about where I am. This journey and a lot of the things that I've been moving through, a lot of things I'm speaking about. Some of them are in the past, and I've certainly feel like I'm above those messes. And there's other things where I'm like, yeah, I feel like I'm still working my way out of this mess. And it's also a reflection of I can be in the mess and still be of service and useful, right? Too.
okay, yeah,
Yeah. So, and then and not to I'm like gonna get so nuanced with this now and make it more confusing, but yeah, and then also I think there is being so in the mess that you don't come out and probably talk about it publicly or try to like deliver a service from it, if that makes
mm,
sense, right? Like I think that's true too.
there are levels to it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I see
yeah,
what you mean. Yeah, well, awesome. Like it was a pleasure speaking with you as well as doing that somatic experience. Learned something new today. Very interesting. So yeah, like where can people find you and like, what type of coaching do you do? Like where can people work with you if they want to get some coaching in your area as well?
yeah. But I mean, as far as my area, I'm in basically Fairfield County, um, which is Connecticut, more specifically Greenwich. But as far as coaching or where they can find me, obviously Substack at the Liminal Father, Instagram at Eric.Polini. Uh, and then from there, you'll find further links, to my website, stillpointstrength.com. The coaching is a lot of what we just did today. So I do it with any gender, but specifically the target audience has been more men. So kind of refer to this as men's work in a way. So getting people back into their bodies, getting them to access their beliefs, their limiting beliefs, and even something that we haven't talked about here, and I'm going to drop this as a little bit as a cliffhanger because we don't have time to go into it, but we can certainly come back and talk about it. But even more specifically, I'm starting to work with men who have pornography addiction.
Okay.
Which was, and I kind of left that out intentionally today because it's just a lot to go into. But that was something that greatly impacted my life very early, ages 10 to 12. Story for another time. But so yes, I'm working there, and probably not for the audience that's listening in here, but obviously I reference the work I do with junior golfers, which really is coming at it from a similar angle. It's really just about getting into the body, into the beliefs. Yeah, so that's most of the work I'm doing now. I'm trying to think if I left anything out. And then yes, there's the somatic breath work, the 50-minute experience. There's a 30-minute experience, and even just a shorter 15-minute experience that I offer in 3 tiers. And that sometimes often can be part of a package of how I coach somebody through what we did, but sometimes even just separate. Someone wants to go through that experience, and I can do that in person. I can do that virtually. Yeah, that's my answer.
Awesome. Yep. Sounds like you're doing some amazing work. So keep up the great work there. And
thank you.
I hope everybody has a great rest of your Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, this is awesome. The people who have joined, so cool. I mean, it really is. I don't really have words for it, but so cool to have people stick around for really this whole thing. So that's a credit to you. That's a credit to you and your message. So I just hope my last thing I'll say to you is I hope you take some pause to feel that, and not just be like, oh yeah, 8, cool, great. Like actually, like wow, 8 people sitting with us for this time, like connecting. And so I'm certainly going to sit with that. So I hope you do as well.
Yeah, it's a good feeling going into the rest of this weekend.
Right?
Yeah.
It's all about emotional range, man. We got to amplify the good stuff, and sometimes the stuff you don't want to feel. We got to amplify that too, but definitely the good stuff. Got to I feel good. Like, what does that actually feel like? How can I feel that more?
Yeah. Definitely.
Right? Like, look, see, you're like actually giving yourself permission to like feel it more, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was a special live. Definitely different from any other live I've done. So, yeah, thank you for everything you've done.
You got it, man. Thanks so much for having me on.
All right, you have a good one. Bye.
Take care.